Christmas Eve, 1945. In the small town of Fayetteville, West Virginia, the Sodder family was celebrating the holiday. 10 children, laughter, warmth, and a decorated Christmas tree glowing late into the night. But before dawn, their home would be reduced to ashes. 5 children would vanish without a trace. And nearly 80 years later, the question still haunts us. What really happened to the Sodder children? George Sodder, originally Giorgio Sodder, was an Italian immigrant. He came to America as a teenager and built a successful trucking business in Fayetteville. With his wife, Jenny, they raised 10 children in a modest but happy home. The Sodders were not poor or struggling. By 1945, George's business was thriving, and their children were well cared for. They seemed like the picture of the American dream. But under the surface, conflicts were brewing. On December 24th, the Sodders gathered to celebrate. The older children asked to stay up late, playing with toys and opening small gifts. Jenny agreed, as long as they remembered to turn off the lights and lock the doors. Around midnight, the phone rang. Jenny answered. A woman's voice asked for a man Jenny didn't know. Behind her, Jenny could hear strange laughter and glasses clinking. Jenny told her she had the wrong number and hung up. Later, she remembered the odd call and how the woman had sounded almost mocking. Before going back to sleep, Jenny noticed the lights were still on, the curtains open, the door unlocked. She thought it strange, but went to bed anyway. Hours later, she woke to the smell of smoke. Flames consumed the home. George and Jenny escaped with 4 of their children, but Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny, and Betty, ages 5 through 14, were trapped upstairs. George tried desperately to save them. He rushed for his ladder. It was gone. He ran to his trucks, planning to use them to climb the roof. Both refused to start. Neighbors tried to help, but the fire raged out of control. The local fire department, understaffed during wartime, didn't arrive until morning. By then, the house was a pile of smoking rubble, and when the search began, the children were nowhere to be found. The authorities claimed the fire had destroyed their bodies completely. But George and Jenny were not convinced. Experts insisted that even in much hotter fires, bones and teeth survive. Determined to test this, Jenny burned animal bones in her stove. Every time, remains were left behind. So where were the bones of her children? Strange details emerged. The phone line to the house had been cut. The ladder George always kept against the side of the home was found thrown down an embankment, far from the fire. A witness claimed to see a man watching silently as the Sodder home burned. Another reported seeing balls of fire being thrown onto the roof, possibly Molotov cocktails. And then came the most chilling claims. Witnesses who said they had seen the children alive. One woman reported seeing them peering out of a passing car as the fire raged. Another claimed she served them breakfast at a local diner the next morning. Why would anyone want to harm or kidnap the Sodder children? Some point to George's political views. He was an outspoken critic of Mussolini, at a time when Mussolini's supporters lived in Fayetteville. Did enemies silence him by taking his children? Others believe the Mafia was involved. George had refused business offers from organized crime figures. Was the fire a punishment for his defiance? There were personal grudges, too. Just weeks before the fire, an insurance salesman threatened George. Your house will go up in smoke. Your children will be destroyed. And then there's the possibility of a cover-up. The local fire chief behaved strangely during the aftermath, even admitting years later that he had collected a heart from the ashes and buried it secretly in a box. The box was later dug up. Inside was not a heart, but a beef liver. The Sodders never gave up hope. They erected a massive billboard along Route 16 with photos of their 5 missing children, begging for answers. For decades, drivers passing through West Virginia saw their desperate plea. George and Jenny spent their life savings chasing leads. They traveled across the country, following tips and rumors. Then in 1967, Jenny received an envelope in the mail. Inside was a photograph of a young man. On the back was a cryptic note. The man looked strikingly like her missing son, Louis. Grown up. Was it him? Was Louis alive somewhere, living under another name? George died in 1969, never knowing the truth. Jenny wore black every day until her death in 1989. Their surviving children carried on the search, but the mystery remained. Theories continue to swirl, but no official evidence has ever proven what happened to the Sodder children. A fire that should have left behind tragedy instead left only questions.